Chain Gang. I hear they're terrific.
Woo! Quote the Raven, nevermore.
The irresistible force meeting the immovable object. Look at the size of the giant.
You can call this the New World Order of Wrestling, brother. And if you're not done with that, then he's got 2 words for you.
Hello everyone and welcome to a special freestyle episode of Get Back to the Wrestling. Finally, there's a podcast on the internet about professional wrestling. I am your host today, Mr. Luke Giaconetti. I'd like to thank everyone for downloading and listening to this very special episode. And what makes this a special episode? Well, we had some, as I'm recording this over the weekend, we had a very big return to the WWE in the form of the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. And so I decided to ask the biggest American Nightmare mark I could find, who was myself, what I thought and what my reactions were to Cody Rhodes' return. You'll recall a few weeks back, I did an episode kind of talking about the speculation about Cody Rhodes going back to WWE. So now that that's come to fruition, I thought it was only appropriate to follow up. Just a programming note, it is not the intention for every freestyle episode to only be about Cody Rhodes. It just happened to work out that way for these two. So, Saturday night at WrestleMania, of course, a 2-night event now. Saturday night, WrestleMania, back half of the show. We get, the mystery opponent for Seth Rollins. And Seth Rollins comes out, and they make us wait, and they make us wait, and they make us wait. And then we hear it, wrestling has more than one royal family, and the introduction of Cody Rhodes. Now, this was the first thing that I think was really, really, really cool, for lack of a better term, but I wasn't sure was going to be the case. So, at WrestleMania, Cody Rhodes, who was introduced as Cody Rhodes, because WWE owns that name, got his full American Nightmare entrance, with the American Nightmare graphic, and the song Kingdom was still being played. And it was very, very impressive seeing it in AT&T Stadium, kind of throughout that giant capacity arena. It's a football stadium, so much bigger than AEW normally plays. It was really, really cool to see it, to be honest with you. I mean, that really kind of sent chills up a little bit, seeing that huge version, if you will, of the American Nightmare entrance. Wasn't announced as the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, as I said. Great response from the crowd. Obviously, the crowd was really into it. There was some Cody chants during the period while they were making us wait. So it was obviously, people knew it was coming. At least some people knew it was coming, but a huge response. Now, of course, I have to question, is this a huge response because they're happy to see Cody, or just because it was a big get type of thing? We'll save this some speculation for the end, but great response, like I said. Definitely a babyface response from the cheers that he was getting. Match itself, fantastic, great match. More of what we might consider like an indie or AEW style match, in that it was very back and forth with a lot of false finishes and kickouts of finishers. Some great action in and out of the ring. There was a really cool bit with a suplex going out of the ring, both men taking a spill. I said multiple attempts for the pedigree, for the crossroads, curb stomp. Cody went for the disaster kick off the stairs outside and got blocked. The Cody Cutter was in there. Ultimately, the finish came down to 2 crossroads, then the Bionic Elbow, playing to the crowd for the Bionic Elbow, and then a 3rd crossroads for the to finally put Seth Rollins away. Really good match. I really enjoyed it. I don't know if it was a match of the night because I didn't watch anything else from WrestleMania, to be honest. I sought out this particular match and watched it only. So from that standpoint, WrestleMania was a success for me, at least on Saturday. Seth Rollins, kind of the perfect opponent here for Cody Rhodes coming back. First off, they're kind of similar size, similar build, right? They both have a not going to say a similar move set or anything like that, but I think the way they work is a good complement to each other. Also, there's the connection, it was said a couple of times over the weekend by Cody that, Triple H was his favorite wrestler. And Seth Rollins, of course, was Triple H's protege, storyline-wise, and I think to a degree, reality-wise, using the pedigree and all that. I still think of Seth Rollins more in those terms and this Seth freaking Rollins visionary nonsense gimmick they got him doing now, which I can't make heads or tails of. But the other thing, of course, is that, Seth Rollins coming from NXT was one of Dusty's boys, right? A lot of that, that we kind of think of that wave of NXT guys as being Dusty's boys. And, do you get more of it being one of Dusty's boys than Cody? So I think it was a great match. And putting Cody over doesn't hurt Seth at all at this point in his career. Seth can come back and, immediately move forward with whatever they're going to do with him. And again, we'll speculate on that in a little bit. From this without suffering any damage to his career, even in this era of 50-50 booking and all that jazz. So WrestleMania Saturday, fantastic re-debut for Cody Rhodes. I was 100% on board with this. I thought this was fantastic. Fast forward from Saturday to Monday Night Raw, first segment, Cody Rhodes coming out to the ring for a promo. Great response again. Crowd was really, really hot for him. And again, I do question, are they hot for Cody? Are they hot just because it was a big get, somebody coming back? Very, very good promo. What I was reading this morning is that this promo was not scripted, that they just kind of gave him some direction and said, go out and make it memorable. And I think Cody really delivered. One of the things that I thought was interesting very early in the promo, he said that it was an easy decision to return to WWE. And he talks about how he was the star that left them in the dust, and kind of between that, and he actually did the Stardust cartwheel and pose on Saturday. So kind of referencing to the Stardust character. And I think owning it in a way, not calling back to it in a negative or positive way, but so much as just saying, yeah, that's the past and we're moving forward, which I liked. There was a chant of "You deserve it," which I thought was interesting, just because, again, it's interesting to see the response from a crowd that, the WWE crowd, which wasn't all that interested in Cody when he was here the last time, and then compare that to the AEW crowd, which loved Cody at the start, but then turned on him because he wasn't cool enough, he wasn't a heel, he wasn't hip enough, whatever. They just turned on him, and that was, I think, what precipitated a lot of this. But in any event, the main thrust of the promo is Cody showed a picture from September 1977 showing his father, Dusty Rhodes, holding the then WWF title, holding it up because of a match where he won by countout at Madison Square Garden. This picture evidently was on Cody's parents' mantle in their bedroom for basically until Dusty died, is what Cody said. And it's it's really impressive here from just watching from a viewer standpoint, because you can see Cody breaking down and tearing up a little bit. And if this isn't genuine, it's the most realistic fake tears I've ever seen, because Cody, you could hear it in his voice, you could see it on his face that he was really very emotional about this topic, about talking about his dad. And he name checks some other wrestlers that have held the belt, and that talks about when he was a kid asking his dad, you held the same belt that Hulk Hogan has? And his dad's response of the champion's advantage, and he didn't get to keep it. And that's what inspired Cody right then and there at 8 years old to say, well, I'm going to win that belt to give it to my dad. And of course, now he says, well, that can't happen now. And so he goes on and says his motivation is to win that belt and put it around the ways to the American nightmare to honor the American dream. And this generated a giant Dusty chant. There were chants of "You can do it" from the crowd for this. So again, really great response to a really fantastic promo and a great reintroduction of Cody Rhodes, perhaps for people that maybe hadn't seen him in 6 years, or maybe they only watched WWE and didn't know that about, going to Japan or going to Ring of Honor or Impact or AEW or any of that. So I thought this was a great job of reintroducing him. Segment ends with the aforementioned Seth Rollins coming out, shaking Cody's hand. This was put over on commentary as a welcome. Kind of leads me to believe that the program with Cody and Seth is going to continue for a little while, and I'm okay with that. So again, just two segments out of two, both I thought were really well done. And I understand I'm a mark for Cody. I get that. This could have very easily been botched. The match could have been flat, and it wasn't. The crowd could have been dead. They weren't. The promo could have, fallen flat, and it didn't. So I think 2 out of 2 on these two segments for reintroducing Cody as a full-time guy here with WWE. So that brings us to the future. So what do I think? My first thought, Cody is a babyface. I really do think that Cody, his desire to stay as a babyface and not turn heel, is why the AEW crowd turned on him the way they did. They like the cool baby faces. They kind of like, the Young Bucks is a babyface team. They're sort of heels, but they're not really. They're kind of like that NWO space, maybe leaning more towards the anti-hero space, I guess. Cody really seemed like he wanted to be a traditional babyface and get that over. And what's amazing is that did work for a while. I mean, people forget about that now, but think about some of the early days, feuding with Jericho, then feuding with MJF and stuff with Wardlow. He was over as a babyface. But then, by around the time of like the TNT Championship and the, stuff like that, it really started kind of turning on him. And Malachi Black, that was the one I kind of point to. When he was working with Malachi Black, that the crowd, they really wanted to cheer Malachi Black, so they started booing Cody. And it never really seemed to recover from that. Will the WWE push forward with this as a traditional babyface? I would like to think so, but they have such a mixed record when it comes to doing a traditional throwback style babyface. They sometimes they do it, sometimes they really turn up the corn factor and turn them into the heel. Right? And they make it, they book it in a way that you're supposed to cheer for the air quotes up to the microphone heel and boo the air quotes up to the microphone babyface. And I really hope that's not the case here. And the question then becomes, will the fans embrace a throwback style babyface? I'd like to think they can. I don't have a lot of faith though. Too many times we've seen it where babyfaces just don't work, in the way that we want them to. Just keep smiling, right? That was the whole Rocky Maivia thing. Of course, that was, it was 25 years ago at this point. So it's a question that I'm really curious to see. I know I like Cody as a straight babyface. I am not the typical audience member, though. That said, Seth Rollins, as I said, a good opponent, a great opponent if you're going to be an initial program with Cody Rhodes. They both can talk. They both can work. Their looks even complement each other, with one having dark hair and one having blonde hair. Very flashy. Both get a big crowd response. Both of them can really go, and they have good in-ring abilities. I think would be excited to see them work a longer program. Maybe do this for a few months as we settle out what the deal is with Roman Reigns as the unified champion. Maybe push towards Cody going for that title in the summer. Towards SummerSlam. And, related to that, will Vince put the belt on Cody? The quote that kind of came out in the media scrum with Cody over the weekend was when he was saying to Vince that it was full American Nightmare or else he wasn't going to do it. And the answer that Cody says Vince gave him was, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This is what we paid for, was the American Nightmare. So if Vince has already bought into the concept of not only the American Nightmare, but this idea of winning that title for Dusty, maybe they will give him a run. Do I think he should be the one to dethrone Roman Reigns? That is a different topic. My brother and I have talked about off air about the idea of Roman Reigns, that his record-setting title run, some of the legends that he's chasing with that title run. I would not want to see the belt come off of him if it was going to be a quick turnaround thing. Whoever knocks him off that's going to be the next big guy. Maybe that's what Vince wants for Cody. I don't know. I have so many mixed feelings about that, because on the one hand I would love it, because again, biggest American nightmare mark I know, but at the same time I kind of dread it, because it's like, does Vince like Cody more than Roman? I don't know about that. That seems like a bit of speculation I'm not willing to engage in myself. So we'll see. I hope if nothing else he gets in the title hunt, and that this is not just a promo and then it's forgotten about, that it's actually part of the ongoing plans for Cody, and that there is a plan, and not just, hey, this worked for a hot spot, for a couple of weeks, and now he's, wrestling in the mid-card or something, which is one of my very real and legitimate concerns about all this. Just kind of changing direction, Brandy. There's been no mention of Brandy Rhodes so far. I don't really think there's going to be. I don't think she has anything to prove to come back to. And introducing her as a manager, I mean, I have no problem with that. It's just, baby faces don't need managers, really, right? Generally. And introducing her as a valet, I don't think really does much for her. So I think Cody is going to be on his own. I don't think we're going to see much of Brandy. Maybe if he wins a belt, she might come out or something like that for the celebration. I'm okay with that. I have nothing against Brandy. I said it the last time. I just don't know that she fits into the plans right now. And, with a young family, too, maybe she doesn't want to be on the road for WWE's schedule. That's something very legitimate to consider as well. So, overall, I was trying, as I was preparing this, I was trying to think of how do I want to, express my feeling right now about this. Not even 72 hours after Cody re-debuted again at WrestleMania on Saturday. I think the best way I can describe my feelings is guarded optimism. I am optimistic because so far WWE and Cody have nailed it. They have nailed his return. They have nailed his debut match. They have nailed his debut promo. I'm very excited. The crowd seems into it. It seems like they're leaning into that straight up, babyface American Nightmare, which I so want to succeed. But I'm also guarded because I can see all the pitfalls. I can see Vince getting cold feet about putting the belt on him. I can see Vince feeding him to Roman Reigns, having him lose, and then fall down the card. I can see the crowd turning on him because they only want to cheer heels. I can see all these things, and that makes me a little trepidatious. That fills me with some trepidation and some nerves about how successful this run is going to be. If nothing else, I will be there marking out for Cody and supporting him, just like I was, I'd like to point out, when he back in, Legacy, back, during the dashing Cody Rhodes era, during the dastardly Cody Rhodes era, during the Stardust era, as much as I could, as much as I could stomach it, I was supporting Cody, because I always marked for Cody. And then when he went and did his own thing as a free agent, I was right there for him. I was there. I bought into AEW, not because of Kenny Omega or the Young Bucks, who, I'm gonna say it right here. I can take or leave Kenny Omega or the Young Bucks. It was Cody's involvement that made me interested and made me want to watch AEW, and made me, still to this day, it's the only program I watch on a regular basis besides Ring of Honor, and that one is not really doing new stuff right now. Obviously, Ring of Honor had their own stuff going on this weekend, which is outside the scope of this episode. But it was Cody's involvement, and Cody being the first guy on the first episode of Dynamite against Sammy Guevara, that held value to me. And seeing Cody at WrestleMania in a big time match and going over, and then opening Raw or the big time promo, that holds value to me, and I really hope WWE doesn't squander that value. Just speaking selfishly, speaking selfishly for me, as a mark for Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare. I am, like I said, guarded optimism. That's my feeling right now, and I'm going to stick with it. So, does this mean I'm going to watch Raw every week? No, because I don't have 3 hours, but I will seek out anything Cody does, so I'll definitely be keeping up with that. So, I'm going to throw it now to you, the listeners. What do y'all think? Were you impressed with Cody's return? Did you think it didn't work? What would you have done different? What did you like? What did you not like? Email us. getbacktotherwrestling@yahoo.com. You can also post about it on our Facebook group. There'll be a post for this episode. Go ahead and comment there. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, go ahead and comment down there. That'd be great. I'd really, really love to hear what the listeners think about Cody Rhodes. Again, understanding my personal biases, because I'm such a big fan of Cody, and I know other people are not, and that's cool. That's one of the laws of pro wrestling, right? You can cheer or boo whomever you want for whatever your reasons are, and that's one thing I've always espoused. So that's all I've got. Like I said, guarded optimism. That's my 2 words for today, at least when it comes to the American Nightmare. So in closing, thank you everyone for listening. Hope y'all come back next time. Just a quick reminder, Get Back to the Wrestling it's for everybody. If you're into pro wrestling, you can be involved in this show. And I hope you check us out. GBTTW Podcast on Twitter. Search for the Get Back to the Wrestling group on Facebook. You can find Get Back to the Wrestling on YouTube. Just search for Get Back to the Wrestling. Of course, we are part of the Two True Freaks podcast network, which is at twotruefreaks.com. That's TWOTRUEFREAKS.com. Of course, also, please go check out Go Fight Pow, which is the official card game of Get Back to the Wrestling, and quite a lot of fun. And, it's fast-paced. You can play it usually during the downtimes on an episode of Raw, right? And there's a little bit of downtime in Raw, right? So please go check that out. Like I said, love to hear your thoughts on this. And that's all I've got. So until next time, we'll see you at the matches.
No, don't you walk away from me, Daniel. Don't you walk away. I'm the one that loves the fans. I'm the one that loves everyone and everything. You're the one that gets up and walks away every single time. You're the coward.